Hello BookTube, it's Ben here from the History Fellow channel. Today's video, I thought, well, as we're coming up to the end of the year and I've spent this whole year reading lots and lots of books, I'd do my Books of the Year awards. So from all the publishers that I received books from, a huge thank you. I've read quite a few books this year, and to be honest, the vast majority of them have been brilliant, really interesting reads. I've really enjoyed reading them. So what I thought what I have done is I've done a list of like my 10 favourite books, but to be honest, I could have quite easily done my top 30, 40, 50 books, but these 10 books, they are in order, so obviously at the end of the video you'll see my favourite book of the year, but these are my 10 favourite books of 2021. So let's get started at number 10. I've slightly cheated here in that I've got two books. Outlaws of the Wild West, written by Terry C. Treadwell, and Lawmen of the Wild West, written by the same person, same author, Terry C. Treadwell, and they're both published by Frontline Books. And the reason I've cheated and put them both together is that they're more or less the same books. Obviously, one's about outlaws, one's about lawmen of the Wild West, and they are really, really good books. They are really interesting. Each chapter kind of looks at each individual outlaw or lawman, and you get a really good story of, or their life story of what they've achieved or what they haven't achieved, or what they've managed to get away with. But they are really good books, and I can't recommend them highly enough. They're a really good read. So that's the first, number 10. And then in at number 9, we have Defeating the Panzer Stuka Menace, British Spigot Weapons of the Second World War, and that's written by David Lister, and it's published by Frontline Books again. Now, some of you might see this book and think, oh, that looks a bit technical or a bit boring, or doesn't look as interesting as most history books. And to be honest, you'd be right. It's a very technical book, but I've really loved it. I loved learning all about the Piat gun and all the spigot weapons, and then there's a whole other realm of different types of weapons that are mentioned in this book that were invented during the Second World War, and I've really enjoyed it, and it was a really good read. So that's my number 9. The next book is Deserters of the First World War, The Home Front, written by Andrea Hetherington, and that's published by Pen and Sword Books. I found this one interesting because you kind of wonder sometimes, why people desert and that sort of thing, and was it mental problems, were they suffering from bomb blast and that sort of thing, and all the worries that would bring, especially if you're not a professional soldier and you've only just volunteered and been in sort of the First World War conditions can be really traumatic. And it was an interesting to read about this as to why people deserted, and the various reasons and what they got up to when they actually deserted. It was quite a revealing read. That was Deserters of the First World War, and that was published by Pen and Sword Books. Right, the next book is a very recent read, but a thoroughly good one, because it's kind of what I really like. I quite like castles and local history and that sort of thing. It's Castles of England, written by John Paul Davis and published by Pen and Sword Books again. Really interesting book. He does pretty much all the major castles around England, in the various counties, and he does them by county. So you can really get a sense of where they are, and certainly where all the major castles are. And he's also doing a Castles in Wales book soon as well, so that's going to be a really good read. The next book I picked was Rebel Yell by Sam Gwynne, author of Empire of the Summer Moon and finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. Let me just read that small print. This book was a National Book Critics Circle Award finalist, and it was on the New York Times bestseller list. And that's Rebel Yell, the violence, passion and redemption of Stonewall Jackson, and is published by SimonandSchuster.com, and it's a really good read. Probably one of the best American Civil War books I've read for a while, and also coincidentally I really like Stonewall Jackson. It's just a really good read, really informative, and it goes through battles by battles and what his family thought of what was going on as well, and how he used to get on with his sister. But it's a really revealing read, and he's seen as one of the best US generals that was in the war. The next book is a favourite of mine because I love local history. This is Britain's Coast at War, written by Neil R. Story, and it basically looks at the invasion threat, coastal forces, bombardment and training for D-Day around the UK coastline, what the soldiers were getting up to in their training, but also how the local populations that lived on the coast were getting along and how they coped and dealt with the fighting and the war. And it's a really good read, and I basically picked this one because I just loved the local history in it, and it's really good. And that was published by Pen and Sword Books too. That's Britain's Coast at War. So what we're down to now, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got the top 4 left. And the next one is, I have to say this was a humongous read. Team of Rivals, the Political Genius of Abraham Lincoln, written by Doris Kearns Goodwin, published by Penguin Books. And basically it's a look at the life of Abraham Lincoln, how he got elected, his cabinet. It's really interesting because it looks at the people he worked with and why he put certain people in positions in control of certain things, and he was kind of one of these that, if he didn't get on with someone very well, he would then have them in his cabinet where he could keep them closer and like keep an eye on them and what they were up to. But it's a really good read. And from what it says on the front, a remarkable study in leadership, and that's a quote from Barack Obama. And at the top it also says the book that inspired Barack Obama. But it's a really good read, a really long read. I remember it took me longer than normal, but I did really enjoy it. Right, the top 3 books for this year that I have read. In third place goes to Radio Hitler, Nazi Airwaves in the Second World War, written by Nathan Morley, and this is published by Amberley Publishing. A really, really good read. To be honest, it didn't take me long to read because I was enjoying it so much. And it just looks at the how the Germans, or especially the Nazi Party, used the radio communication system, like normal, like normal radio you get these days. It explains how they used it and how they used it for propaganda. How the Germans would get their information out to all the local populations, and it's quite a revealing read and quite amazing, really. I knew very little about this particular subject of radio in Germany before I read this book, so I've learnt a lot from this one, and it's a really good read, really informative and quite educational. So that's Radio Hitler, written by Nathan Morley, and that's my number 3 of this year. And the second one is a very recent one, and I've only just finished reading it. But there's another chunky tome written by Richard Van Emden, and it's called Boy Soldiers of the Great War, the fully revised final edition, and that is published by Pen and Sword Books. And this, well, like the title says, it's about boy soldiers. It's about young men who have signed up to fight in the Great War, and it goes through various photos, letters, diaries, written experiences, and it is really, really good. And it's one of those books where you can, you see all these young men going off to war thinking, it's going to be great fun, all the lads together, it'll be over within, say, 6 months, as they were all told, and eventually it's not. And of course, you get over fighting a great war and you're facing death and hardship and bombs and explosions, losing your mates, your friends. You're in so much danger and peril. And whereas in some places it is really sad, and you don't want to ever want to be in that situation yourself. It's really sad, but it's also a really interesting read, and very well written as well by the author, Richard Van Emden. And that's my second book, or number 2 book of the year, Boy Soldiers. Boy Soldiers of the Great War, published by Pen and Sword Books. Right then, before I mention my number 1 book of the year, I'd just like to mention that I have big plans for this channel, hopefully, if I can get it all going over the next year. So I kind of like to build it right up, doing lots of different videos, different types of videos, more information, filming more, and kind of getting the brand out more. So if you enjoy what the content I produce, I have a link down below this video to buymeacoffee.com. It's buymeacoffee.com/the-history-fella. You can sign up, and you can just sign up for it. You can do it as little as a couple of dollars a month, right up to, I think the highest one is $10 a month. But I don't mind if you can give something. It's very well appreciated, and I will be very, very well thanked. I will be very thankful to everyone who can join my little Buy Me a Coffee club, and I will put all the money that I receive into helping to build the channel up and make it bigger and better, and being able to produce more historical content, and just be like hopefully a sort of a one-stop shop for history. So if you wouldn't mind making a small contribution, there's a link below this video, and I thank you very much. I would think you are very kind. Now then, the number one book of this year, in my opinion, that I've read is called Day of the Panzer, written by Jeff Danby, and it's a story of American heroism and sacrifice in southern France, and that is published by Casemate Publishing, and I thoroughly enjoyed this, and in fact I'm probably going to read it all from start to finish again very soon. It basically follows, I think it was L Company in May 1944. It's like a tank company. They've gone into Italy, done well, and taken over big parts of Italy, and now they're preparing for like the southern, the D-Day in France, on the southern coast of France rather than the northern coast one that we hear mostly about. But it's a really good book. It's like a fly on the wall kind of documentary where you're in the action yourself, and the writing by the author Jeff Danby is absolutely brilliant. It's like you're there, and it's so informative, all the things that go on, all the death, all the jokes, the camaraderie, the training. It's just a really good read, and it's just fascinating. I really can't praise this book enough. And this is called Day of the Panzer, a story of American heroism and sacrifice in southern France, written by Jeff Danby. And from memory, I think actually Jeff Danby is a relative of one of the soldiers that was in this group. Let me just read you this book at the bit at the back. Jeff Danby is an independent World War II historian living in Ohio. He holds a BA degree in history from DePaul University, with a concentration on the 20th century America. Follows B Company of the 756th Tank Battalion. Doesn't actually say there that he was related, but I'm pretty sure somewhere in the book it tells you that. But it's a really good book. That's my number one book of the year. So thank you very much for watching. I shall have another few videos out this week, so hopefully you can see them. And I'd just like to again say thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you agree with some of the books that I liked, then jot a note down below this video. If you disagree, then you're welcome to disagree with me too as well. So thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you very soon.